Today I'm going to be ranking the Black Mesa chapters from the worst to the best. Wait, haven't I done this before? Well, no. Yes? Kind of. But actually no. You see, I ranked Half-Life 1 chapters from worst to best. I consider Black Mesa to not be a remake or remaster. I consider Black Mesa to be a reimagining. Some chapters have had parts entirely removed, new things that didn't exist added. Some chapters, like Zen, were entirely remade from the ground up. This ranking is going to be very different from the Half-Life 1 ranking. Hey everyone, Jarek here. I'm a dragon on the internet, and I have this nifty tier list to update in between rounds. In very last place, nobody will see this coming at all, it's Interloper. Yeah, this is the one chapter everyone just kind of universally agrees on was a miss. It's frustrating because this chapter starts pretty dang good. The beginning of the chapter expands upon Vortigaunts being slaves. You see it firsthand. You see their awful living conditions. And then you see the reveal of the controllers. Controllers can now control Vortigaunts. I still find these enemies to be rather annoying, but this part about them is pretty darn cool. After this, you have a cinematic Gargantua chase, which is awesome. Look at that. Cinematic as fuck. But then everything just goes downhill. The moment you go into this industrial factory zone, everything stops being fun to me. You find yourself running into multiple puzzles where you have to do the same thing 3 times in a row, over and over again. You find yourself fighting the same enemies over and over again. If you're having to put an infinite ammo crystal for the strongest gun in the game just to get through certain parts, that's probably not designed very well, and also incredibly repetitive. And just when you think it's over, you get to this damn elevator. I hate this part. This is easily my least favorite part in all of Half-Life. It just doesn't end, man. It keeps going. The first time you play through Black Mesa, once you're through Interloper, you're mentally done with the game. You don't even care about the final boss at that point. It just kills the pacing. So where do I put Interloper? Well, I want to put it in F tier because that's my emotional feeling about it. The beginning is good. I do like how they show off how the Vortigaunts are slaves in the Gargantua chase. Honestly, that could have been its own chapter on its own. A new named chapter that didn't exist in the base game. Instead, it was stuck onto Interloper. It is genuinely the only time in the whole game where I just don't want to play Black Mesa. And because of that feeling, I have to put it in F tier. I don't like this chapter. In second to last place, we have Residue Processing. This one's bizarre to me because the chapters that people didn't really like very much in Half-Life 1 were usually changed, but this one is more or less the same. Your guns are taken away, which is fine. It's a weapon sandbox reset, that's okay. But the actual chapter is just platforming, and that's it. I've never found this to be particularly fun, but you can get through it relatively quickly, so D tier. In third to last place, Lambda Core. This is a chapter that I'm totally indifferent about in Half-Life 1. I could take it or leave it. Some parts about it I don't like, but most of it I just kind of mindlessly play through without much second thought. But I rank this lower in Black Mesa because I think a few things have been changed for the worse. For example, you need to turn on generators. In Half-Life 1, you just walk down these hallways, press a button, and then come back. It's not particularly deep or engaging, so they try to do a little bit more in Black Mesa. The hallways to get to the generators are the same layout, but once you get there, you have a pseudo puzzle to do before you can turn on the generators. In theory, this is actually great. In execution, people tend to get lost. Usually when you find out the direction you should have gone, it's not a, oh, I should have figured this out puzzle type of thing. It's a, oh, I didn't look over there because there's no light over there, or I just didn't see this pathway. It's not really fun or rewarding. And then you get to the holdout part before you go through the teleport, and I didn't like this in Half-Life 1. I don't really like this in Black Mesa. It's not really been changed. You don't even get the advantage of controllers being improved. They never control Vortigaunts. They just work like Half-Life 1 controllers. They're basically flying turrets. They're really annoying. I hate these enemies. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Lambda Core. It doesn't fill me with rage or anything, but D tier. Alright, no more bad chapters. From here on out, I like them. Apprehension. This is one of the shorter chapters in Black Mesa. And to be honest, for the most part, it's forgettable, if not for 2 moments. The first moment is where you get the crossbow and have to fight the fish underwater. This is great. When you first see the fish leap out of the water and grab the scientist, that has been retained since Half-Life 1. And the better graphics make it even better. People inherently have a fear of going into water where there are monsters, so this always gets an emotional response from people. The next moment is fighting the assassins. and I actually find them to be more fun to fight in Black Mesa, mainly because the weapon sandbox feels a bit different. Your guns on average are a bit more accurate, especially the SMG, so they become more viable against these enemies. I don't mind fighting them in Half-Life 1, but I do enjoy them more in Black Mesa. Overall, not an amazing chapter, but definitely good. B tier. Gonarch's Lair. I might catch some shit for this one, but I've never really liked how they changed Gonarch's Lair in Black Mesa. Now, don't get me wrong, Half-Life 1 definitely could have improved this boss, but at this point you had your entire weapon sandbox, you had a long jump, so it definitely feels like you could take on Gonarch, albeit still kind of terrifying to take on a giant testicle spider, a formidable foe towards the end of the game. And that is how it starts. You do take on this boss at first, but then it flips to sequences that I find to be a little too scripted, where you suddenly have to run even though you could just shoot the thing. I don't mind scripted, but this really does feel like I'm playing a video game, and the scripting is a bit too on the nose. It drags on for a bit too long for my taste, and then you're finally able to fight it again, where you just shoot it. There's not really anything special you do, so what was the point of running away the whole time? Most people seem to really like this change to Gonarch, but I don't know, I've not been one of those people. B tier. Anomalous Materials. This is your first real introduction to your lab in Black Mesa, where you first get to talk to scientists, really see the facility you've been working in. And I love that Black Mesa really fleshed out Eli and Kleiner being those scientists. Like, we always knew that's who they were supposed to be, but when they're using the same model and voice actors as all the other scientists in the facility, they don't quite stick out as memorable characters as much. Making this canon is great. This is also where you first step into the test chamber and make that big mistake. Good immersive chapter, not much to say. B tier. Unforeseen Consequences. Everything has gone to shit. Walking back through the hallways that you were just in, but now everything is destroyed, is always going to be a memorable experience. Other than that, I don't actually have a whole lot to say about this chapter. It's more or less the same as it was in Half-Life 1, except for you get the crowbar a little bit later. It's where you first see the hound eyes, the head crabs, the zombies. It's your introduction to the combat, and as such, it's a solid chapter. B tier. Office Complex. This is more or less a continuation of Unforeseen Consequences, except you're fighting new enemies like Vortigaunts at a bigger scale, and your weapon sandbox is growing. The first part here is this one area where the scientists get pulled into vents. Then you fight against all the Vortigaunts in these hallways. I've always enjoyed this fight. Not sure why. The second one is going through the freezer. I don't even necessarily remember this being an amazing moment. I just remember it well for some reason. But if it sticks in my head that much, then something has to be special about it. This one's a solid chapter. Low A tier. Black Mesa Inbound. This chapter always manages to amaze me in one way or another. Way back in '98, when Half-Life 1 first came out, games didn't really introduce you into a world like this, so everyone remembered it. Nowadays, this intro has sort of lost its luster. Lots of games have done it, so it's not special anymore. Black Mesa Inbound in Black Mesa is special for a different reason, and that is the sheer graphical overhaul. Seeing the Black Mesa facility look this good is special. This is them showing you this is what we've been working on for years, decades. It really pulls off a sense of scale to this facility, makes it a real place. It already was before, but these graphics really do add to it. Yeah, after you played the game a few times, you probably just skipped this chapter, but I have to put it up in A tier. It's still memorable. On a Rail. This chapter got a huge jump for my ranking in Half-Life 1. In Half-Life 1, I generally don't like this chapter, but Black Mesa did a few things to make this chapter nowhere near as annoying. The first one they did, probably the most important one, is they shortened it drastically so it doesn't halt the pacing of the game. I say that, but it's still a fairly long chapter. I feel like it's the right length now. The second one is how they changed the rail car, and that is my biggest complaint about Half-Life 1. The rail car is just annoying to use. It's oftentimes slower than just walking, but the tracks get in the way. It's hard to move around them without the rail car. The chapter just would have been better without these tracks at all, without the rail car. Black Mesa had that solution, but different. You see, you still use the rail car to get from point A to point B, but when you get to a roadblock, you get out of the rail car and then explore that part of the map that you went by. They'll introduce a puzzle to you, and then you'll be on foot. It works much more like a Half-Life 2 vehicle section instead. And a lot of these puzzles and combat encounters are just entirely new. They didn't exist before. I think they nailed these new encounters. I really like them. And something a lot of people have probably forgotten. This fight here is part of On a Rail. Launching that rocket is On a Rail. On a Rail is one of the biggest glow-ups in Black Mesa, A tier. Nihilith. The final boss in Half-Life 1 was okay. You shoot 3 crystals and then shoot it in the head until it dies. It wasn't particularly special, it just kind of existed. Although the design did have shock value, the giant floating baby thing. That said, being teleported away over and over again got really frustrating to some players. Most players, the first few times they played the game. The Hive Hand can get rid of the teleport, but most players don't know that, and he'll just send another teleport right after anyway. Black Mesa ditched that idea entirely. You still have to shoot the crystals and shoot the big baby thing in the head, but now the boss plays more like a Doom 2016 boss. In fact, I'm really confident they were playing Doom 2016 while working on this boss. That is not a bad thing. Upper A tier. We've Got Hostiles is where they drop the bombshell on you that the military is here to clean everything up. They're here to kill you. It's a massive development story-wise, but it's also an entirely new enemy type that plays nothing like anything you've seen yet. I ranked this really highly in my Half-Life 1 ranking, but I have to bump it down a little bit here for the main reason that I don't really find the Marines to be as fun in Black Mesa as they are in Half-Life 1. They feel like reskinned Combine. They no longer limp away when hurt. They don't feel like they talk to each other as much, even though they do. They have much less unique interactions with you, and they're perfectly accurate while sprinting full speed. Combine that with the exaggerated flinch in Black Mesa, and they can be kind of annoying to fight. That said, occasionally annoying to fight does not mean I dislike them. They're still a really good enemy type that is really fun for the most part. This chapter is still amazing. S tier. Easily. Questionable ethics. Man, I love what they've done with this chapter. And it's funny because they haven't really changed much. The layout of this chapter is almost the same. However, what they did change is that they really made it feel like a science facility with questionable ethics. Want to electrocute this grunt? No. How about lighting it on fire? No. How about gassing it? I don't know why this is an experiment, but it is. These rooms here are along the same layout as Half-Life 1, but they're bigger and feel more like a science facility. Did you ever want a snark cannon? No, I never thought of that either, but here it is. Yeah, I really like what they did with this chapter, even if people seem to struggle with the fight at the end. Easy S tier. Power Up. This chapter actually went down a few slots from Half-Life 1, even though I like it more than it did in Half-Life 1. Some other chapters just got bigger improvements than this one did. Power Up has always been an awesome chapter. Having to sneak by this giant crab thing shooting fire at me just to go further away from the surface and find tons of Marines to fight. This fight in particular was one of the first ones the Black Mesa team ever showed off way back in the day. Do you remember that initial trailer they released 16 years ago? Jesus Christ. Anyway, they said they were going to release it in 2009. This was one of the first things they showed. It looked awesome back then, and in the final product, it looks just as awesome. Honestly, the only notable improvement they made was just making the player feel safer when they're electrifying this crab thing. But you were still trapped in this area with the Gargantua shooting fire at you while you turned on the power. But once you climbed up top, you had somewhere safe to watch the electricity do its job. Just a solid improvement all the way around. Fun chapter, S tier. Forget About Freeman. This is another chapter that got a really big glow up. I ranked it somewhat low in my Half-Life 1 ranking, which surprised me because I always attached Forget About Freeman with surface tension. But in all reality, Forget About Freeman is just a footnote to what surface tension was. The battles in Forget About Freeman were not very big or very memorable. Yeah, Black Mesa changed that drastically. Here's what this tank fight looked like in Half-Life 1. Here's what this tank fight looks like in Black Mesa.
Medical systems engaged.
Awesome. Amazing fight, S tier. From that, we go to the chapter I gave first place in Half-Life 1, Surface Tension. In a lot of ways, this is the definitive chapter of Half-Life. So much happens in this chapter. You fight on a massive dam. You fight on a cliffside. You fight against tanks. You sneak through a minefield. You kill snipers. You try not to set off nukes. You fight your way through massive combat encounters between aliens and Marines. You even have the option to stealth by Marines if you want to, but whoever does that. And then the Gargantua chase has been expanded, and the mortar is much easier to use. You can also crash the game if you mash it. Charizard, you don't need to do it that much. Other than Interloper, this is the longest chapter in the game. But it doesn't feel like that. So much happens that's so much fun, it just flies by. Easily S tier. Zen. Oh man, this chapter got the biggest glow up out of any of them. Most people did not like how Zen turned out in Half-Life 1. I'm not as critical of the original Zen in Half-Life 1 as other people are, but it's definitely the weaker part of the game. This is no longer the case. The Black Mesa team just said, screw this, we're redoing all of it. You are now in a rainforest in space. It's such a unique location that the best comparison I can give is Ori, of all things. I've seen some people complain that it doesn't really align with Valve's view, but who cares, man? This shit is dope. To me, the point of Zen was to introduce you to an alien world, and this definitely feels like an alien world. I love Zen, man. I love the changes they did. I really can't rant about it enough. S tier easily. I really contemplated putting this at number 1, but that only leaves one chapter for first place. Blast Pit. What's funny is that this chapter really hasn't changed. It's more or less the same as it was in Half-Life 1. Valve got it right. What more could you have changed? What more did you need to change? This was my favorite chapter in Half-Life 1. I didn't rank it number 1 because I felt surface tension belonged higher up, but I don't find the Marines to be quite as fun as Half-Life 1, so I feel like Blast Pit can be ranked higher here. There's something remarkably satisfying about sneaking around this giant tentacle beast, turning on power to kill it behind its back, and then burning it to all hell. Obviously, number 1 pick goes in S tier. Tiers are ordered. So here's how our tier list looks at the end. I think I'm pretty happy with it. Really do like Black Mesa. I guess here I'll momentarily answer the question, should you play Half-Life 1 or Black Mesa if you've never been in Half-Life? If you're still watching this and you've never played either, I don't know what you're doing. So this conversation is more for other people that have played the games. Obviously the correct answer is both since they're so different. I don't think Black Mesa replaces Half-Life 1, but if you have to choose, I think it depends on the person. If you grew up playing games in the 90s and you're used to arena shooters, then play Half-Life 1. You're going to enjoy it. But if they're younger, if they're not used to that style of game, I find them struggling with Half-Life 1's movement and that style of 90s game. I don't really see anything wrong with playing Black Mesa instead of Half-Life 1, if they still play the Half-Life expansions. Then you kind of get the best of both worlds. But really, just play both. Thank you so much for watching this video. These videos are always a lot of fun to make. Thanks to my YouTube members who got to see this video very early ahead of time. So if you want to join them, feel free. I keep it pretty cheap. It helps support me, it helps allow me to continue doing this job, and it helps pay my bills, so really thank you a lot. If you want to check out my other videos, well, here's a huge playlist of videos up there of a bunch of analysis style videos where I'm just talking about games. You can check out the other ones down there. Recommended video, Google might know some stuff about you. Or you can click down here and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.